Welcome. This is Sylvia Greene. You have learned in your EBRI, Evidence-Based Reading Instruction Overview, that of the four essential components of reading, alphabetics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension, alphabetics and fluency are the most important for the 0 to 3.9 grade equivalent adult learner. These are the print-based as opposed to meaning-based skills so crucial for the beginning reader to acquire in order to begin to get meaning from text. This course will focus on alphabetics. Two good definitions of alphabetics follow, excerpted from the work of two of the most respected researchers in the field of adult reading, John Strucker and John Krudenier. Here is John Strucker's definition. And here is John Krudenier's definition. Both definitions mention phonics, which we will use synonymously with decoding, word analysis, and sounding out. We won't discuss rapid letter naming, a less familiar skill, but if interested, you can look up the work of Marianne Wolf at Tufts University. And both Strucker and Krudenier mention phonemic awareness, which is part of the broader term phonological awareness. Before addressing those two terms, we need to look at a basic characteristic of English that makes it tricky for some people to learn. Languages can be divided into four types. As we look at them, think about some examples and the advantages and disadvantages of each. In a pictographic language, the character representing a spoken word looks like a little picture of the object or action. The word for bird would look like a bird. Can you think of an example of a pictographic language? If you thought of ancient hieroglyphics, you would be correct. Do you see modern examples of pictographic language as you drive or walk or bike around? Did you think of examples similar to moose crossing, railroad tracks, or library as being possible examples of pictographic language? If you did, you're right. What do you think are the advantages of a pictographic language? If you're thinking it's transparent and anyone can understand it, then you got it. What about the disadvantages? Right, people have to learn thousands of characters, which means only the elites have time to master the language. In a logographic language, the character representing a word retains some of the concreteness of a pictograph, but has become more stylized. A good example would be Chinese, which has around 50,000 characters, though a typical student would need to learn only 5,000 or so. In a syllabic language, a character represents a recurring syllable in the language. Examples would be the kana forms of Japanese and Cherokee. Do any of you teach students whose native language is syllabic? If you thought of Ethiopian and Eritrean students, you're right. Amharic and Tigrinya are syllabic languages. In a minute, you'll see why English is sometimes difficult to decode for students from this part of the world. And finally, English, which is an alphabetic language. Here, a character represents a phoneme in the spoken language. A phoneme being a unit of sound that can't be broken down any further, like f, or t. What do you think are the advantages of an alphabetic language? If you said there are only 26 characters to learn, you would be right, because more people can manage these, so it's more democratic. What about the disadvantages? Right, there's nothing obvious or transparent about the relationship between phoneme and character, i.e. letter-sound correspondence, as John Crudenere calls it. Why should the short A sound be represented by a pointy tent with a slash through it? It's an abstract, arbitrary relationship. Before proceeding any further, we need to make sure everyone knows the terminology used in the teaching of alphabetics. Many of the terms on the Alphabetics and Syllabication and Spelling Terminology handout, which you see on the screen, will already be familiar. It can be found below this video presentation. Read through it and keep it handy as you proceed through this course, and also feel free to share it with other teachers. I will see you in the next presentation, Phonemic Awareness.